Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Wherever you're joining from, please welcome. My name is Praveen Nara. I'm an event coordinator for ICC's Crack the Wellness Code Movement and Thai Global. I'm the founder and CEO of TechDatas, where we help companies grow smarter and faster by leveraging AI and technology. Today, we have people joining us from across the world. We have people joining us from Asia, Australia, Middle East, and of course, the Americas. I'm super excited to have you on this webinar being organized by Crack the Wellness Code Movement, a nonprofit initiative by India Community Center, the largest non-religious, apolitical, and community center for South Asians in North America, and in collaboration with Thai Global, the world's largest entrepreneurial organization with over 60 chapters across the globe. So this event is a series of webinars organized by Crack the Wellness Code Movement. CWC initially started as a single event and swiftly emerged as a powerful brand and movement across the world. It is championed by wellness-focused community members across the world. CWC is an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, professionals, corporate executives, and health heroes, combined with medical practitioners, nutritionists, dietitians, and wellness champions dedicated to crack their wellness code by embracing evidence-based lifestyle, diet, and wellness best practices. By evidence-based, I mean there is no fluff, no hype, and no theories. These are tested and proven practices based on evidence. Our speakers combine the wisdom gained and perfected in the Eastern world by our ancestors over thousands of years, and the innovation and health research and development in the Western world to bring you the best of the both worlds. CWC was co-founded by Naren Bakshi, Dr. Pankaj Viz, and Somnath Chatterjee. Soon, it grew into a movement. In a short time, due to huge demand, we conducted over 53 online events, and today's event is 54th online session. CWC offers a wide range of programs, both online and offline, and you can visit crackthewellnesscode.org/all events, and you can register for other events that are listed on the calendar over there. And we have events for seniors, youngsters, entrepreneurs, and also for local communities. As CWC is a nonprofit organization, I invite you to donate generously by visiting the link. You can actually see the link on the page. It's crackthewellnesscode.org/donate. And if you seek out experts like this on your own, you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and you're getting this information for free. So please support this nonprofit movement so that we can serve and help even more people. And we have several digital and non-digital projects for which your support would be a huge help. Now, let me move on to show you today's agenda. So today, you're going to learn how to manage and relieve your stress and maintain a work-life balance. You will also discover how to improve your happiness while reducing your anxiety, fear, and anger. You will also learn evidence-based Western and Eastern best practices to improve your mental resilience during these uncertain times. So I'm first going to invite Gopi Kalayal to speak. Then I will invite Dr. Kusum Bhatt. Both are amazing speakers, and you're going to have a blast. So due to compliance and legal reasons, our legal team wants me to show you this disclaimer. Please read it fully. Just know that this event it doesn't establish a doctor-patient relationship. This event is just for education purposes only. And we do have a right to use the video and audio recordings that become property of CWC for later use. With that legal lingo out of the way, let's jump into the webinar. Like I said, this webinar is being brought to you by Thai Global in collaboration with ICC's Wellness Movement. Thai Global is the largest nonprofit entrepreneurial organization in the world with over 60 chapters across the globe. To kick off the webinar today, we have with us Mahavir Sharma, Chair of Thai Global. Mahavir Sharma is a serial entrepreneur. He's part of many businesses and social organizations. He is passionate about angel investing, leadership, and mentoring. He currently holds so many key positions. I will not be able to go into all of those, but I'll share top few. He's chairman of Thai Global Board of Trustees. He's a co-founder of and chairman of RAIN, Rajasthan Angel Innovator Network. He's also a chairman of Thai India Angels, an initiative by Thai Global, among many others. Now, I invite Mahavir to say a few words.
Thank you, Praveen, for such a generous introduction. Good evening, everyone in the US. Good morning, everyone in Asia and Australia. I think this fourth partnership together with the CWC, Crack the Wellness Code team at the ICC has been progressing very well. I mean, for those of you who could not attend, all videos are available. I mean, we've already covered optimal sleep, lifestyle medicines, gut health, and microbiome. And I think all these sessions have been very enlightening to me personally. Have had a very good feedback from across Thai members who could join live or look at the videos later on. I am really looking forward to this session today. I think, Gopi and Dr. Kusum have great knowledge in whatever subjects that they're going to speak on. One is happiness and one is on anger management. I'm looking forward to their talks, and I look forward to this. And without taking much time, I hand it over back to you, Praveen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahavir. I appreciate it. Okay, so with that, let me now say a few words about Gopi Kalil. He is the chief evangelist of digital transformation and strategy at Google. Before that, he was the chief evangelist of brand marketing. And earlier to that, he led the team of marketing, the marketing team at Google's flagship product, AdWords, both in Americas and Asia Pacific. And he headed the marketing team for AdSense, which is Google's publisher-facing product. And before joining Google, Gopi managed 2 venture-funded startups and was a consultant with McKinsey & Company. He received not 1, but 2 master's degrees in business administration from some of the utmost institutions in the world, one from Indian Institute of Management and another from the Wharton School of Business. Gopi is a yoga practitioner, triathlete, public speaker, global traveler, and a Burning Man devotee. He has also spoken at TEDx, the World's Peace Festival, Wisdom 2.0, and other venues. He hosts a TV program called Changemakers. He's the author of 2 books, The Happy Human and The Internet to the Internet. Gopi is a guest faculty member at Stanford University. I can speak about his accomplishments for the whole hour. I would still not be done. In short, Gopi is one of those overachievers. Gopi, it is such a privilege to have you join us today and share your wisdom to our audience. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you, Mahavir. Good morning, good evening, and namaste to everyone joining from all over the world. It's amazing that in the midst of the pandemic, we can do this to stay connected and explore this topic of wellness, happiness, and dealing with our stress. Happiness is the most universal of human pursuits. It doesn't matter which country, which culture, which sub-community you're talking to. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone has an opinion about happiness. So if you search for happiness on, let's say, books on Amazon, you get thousands of hits. The Pope has a book on happiness. The Dalai Lama has a book on happiness. Desmond Tutu has a book on joy. So everyone has a strong opinion because it is the most universal of pursuits. We simply want to be happy. And in a time like this, in the midst of the pandemic, while our world is turned completely upside down, we seem to have lost control. It adds to the level of stress, and people are less happy, and we are constantly continuing the search. And this was a topic that came to me as something of great interest. So I decided to look at it from my own personal perspective, from the lens of my personal experience, and study it, much like how Siddhartha Gautama Buddha said, I'm going to use my body and my breath and my awareness, my consciousness to understand why I'm feeling this sense of dissonance, despite being born into a royal family, being a prince, which left the palace and said, I'm going to get to the truth. And he used personal observation. He didn't have the modern day neuroscience techniques that are now available to us, and just using the power of observation, personal experience, he discovered it and documented. In a similar way, I started exploring what is really happiness, what makes us happy, are there things that we can do to increase our level of happiness, to reduce our level of stress, to respond to different situations, and which is what led me to write this book that Praveen was mentioning, The Happy Human. And the idea was to document and write about my own experiments on this topic. And there's a vast array of literature and research available. Thankfully, in the year 2020, there's both Eastern wisdom on this topic and Western, I don't want to call Western, but global science based on evidence-based research using bio medical techniques to observe what goes on in the brain, what goes on in the heart when you're happy, when you're unhappy, what happens to cortisol levels, how does dopamine get released, what helps serotonin get released, because those are the markers by which you feel that glowing sense of joy, happiness, and being alive. And there are several things I can talk about in the book, but one thing that you can actually do, every one of us can do to have some degree of control. But before I go into it, I just wanted to explain a couple of framework ideas that I have in my own thinking and my own books. I came to the conclusion early on that in search of happiness, we as humans try to change our externalities. We believe that things external to us will make us happy. And this is why we try to make changes. We change our house, we change our jobs, we change the cities we live in, the countries we live in, we change our significant other in certain cases, hoping that that will give us happiness. But I came to the conclusion that none of this will really matter. In the short term, it may make a difference, but it's not going to sustain long-term happiness. The only way you can change your happiness is to change your consciousness, to change your thinking and framing of your life situation and the meaning and context that you give to your life, which is why I have this enormous respect for the wisdom that's come from the East. Even as the Western world has studied the external world, the material world, and has tremendous amount of knowledge about minerals and metals and doing with digital electronics, some of the Eastern world seems to have spent thousands of years studying what goes on inside the mind. And their documented evidence shows, experiential evidence, empirical evidence, that shifting your consciousness is really what's going to make you happy. So how do you shift your consciousness? And this is what I explore in the book. And I'll just talk of one of the techniques. And the technique is based on a simple fact that I learned, that all of our life experience has to be filtered by this very complex system, which we all have: our body, our breath, our brain, our mind, our consciousness. This is the most important asset available to each of us as individuals. And why do I say that? Because all of our life experience is being filtered by this layer. And Dr. Kusum can come later and from a medical perspective talk more about it. But let me give you some simple examples. If you had breakfast or lunch or dinner, wherever time zone you are in, it is being processed by this layer. If you're listening to my conversation, you're listening to my words, looking at my expression, my gestures, and processing it. If I stop right here, ask 10 of you to interpret what I just said, I will get 10 different meanings because you all processed it in a different way. So whether you're moved by a piece of music to tears or to laughter or to boredom, it's all based on how it's being filtered by this layer. So every one of your life experiences, when you sit in a presentation, whether it makes sense to you or whether you lose interest, again, it's based on how this layer is filtering. So that's a simple logical argument that there is no life experience as individuals outside of this layer. The second is that as human beings, especially in a gathering like this, high achieving, ambitious human beings, we all want to express ourselves. We think this is what gives us meaning and context. All of our self-expression also has to come from this layer. There is no self-expression outside of it. So whether you write your next greatest book or a business plan or a piece of music or cook an amazing dish for your family today or design a beautiful dress, all of our self-expression, physical, intellectual, idea-based, has to come from this layer. Therefore, I arrived at this logical conclusion that the quality of our life is determined by, including happiness, the quality of our life, quality of happiness is shaped by how we take care of this system, how we can crack that code around wellness, around the mind, body, spirit, breath, brain, the three B's I call it: body, breath, and brain. If we learn how to put this inner system, this very complex system, into a state of peak performance, we experience life at a peak state, we express ourselves in a peak state. So let me repeat that again. If somebody gives you that code, that wellness code that teaches you how to put this internal state into a state of peak performance, you experience life at a peak state, you express yourself at a peak state. So what is that code? Fortunately, we don't have to figure it out. And this is where we have to be thankful to the ancients, as Praveen was saying. This combination of ancient wisdom and the modern medical science that has evolved in the last 30, 40 years, people who've been studying it at a body level, at a brain level, neuroscientists, etc., now has given us an amazing operating manual that tells you exactly what you can do. And this will only continue to evolve. We'll have more research coming out. We'll have more sophisticated techniques. But it can be overwhelming. Who can digest all of this? And this is where I talk about in one of my chapters, a simple formula. And it's not my original thinking. I actually learned it from my health coach at the South Asian Heart Center. And I knew the pieces individually when I was staying in an ashram in India and became a yoga teacher. They taught it, but using a different language and framework. And the brilliance of my health coach was she just gave it to me in one sentence. She would say, her name is Anita, and Anita would say after every meeting, Gopi, remember to take your meds every day. Take your meds every day. And by meds, Anita was not talking about like a magic pill box that he bought from a pharmacy. She was talking about M for meditation, E for exercise, D for diet, as in healthy nutrition, S for sleep. She said, if you do these four things, just these four things, in addition to anything else you want to add on, you're already doing a lot of things to take care of this inner technology, and you start experiencing life at a peak state and expressing yourself at a peak state. So let me demystify that for you a little bit, because this seems, those four pillars, meditation, exercise, diet, as in nutrition, and sleep, can seem a lot of big pieces to move around in your life. And this is where you start simplifying it. Another experiential lesson I learned along the way is start at the lowest possible threshold that you can't say no to on a daily or weekly basis, and then work your way from there. So before you get an advanced practitioner of this technique, find what is the lowest possible and demystify it, get it down to a simple term. So let's start with M. M for meditation. If you don't have a regular meditation practice, and some of you may have done elaborate meditation techniques, maybe you did the Vipassana meditation course, 10 days, 14 days of silence, maybe you've done a year-long retreat, who knows? But if you're not a practitioner, start with like a minute of spaciousness in your life. Just a minute you give yourself to find some level of peace and quiet, whatever that means to be you. And I don't want to be prescriptive here. It might be just sitting with a cup of tea in your garden, breathing and just kind of noticing the sun coming up, or going for a walk for 5 minutes and observing, or a more formal sitting meditation. And that's my practice. And ideally they say 20 minutes or 30 minutes twice a day. I struggle with it to fit that all in, but I have a commitment of 1 minute a day. That might seem completely useless. A minute is not that much. But in the 1,440 minutes I have in a day, there's not a single day where I can say I don't have a minute to take care of myself. So it becomes easy to then say I have a daily meditation practice. And often it's just a minute a day. But in most days, and after you do it for a while, the minute becomes 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and becomes easy to have. Fortunately, I work in a company where they have daily meditation sessions. And one of them is at noon. So I have like a standing non-negotiable appointment at 12 on my calendar when I'm going to meditate with my colleagues. And especially during the pandemic, they're doing it on video conference. So on most days, 12 o'clock means my brain says meditation time. And I sit with the rest of the group for half an hour. So it gives me a structure. E for exercise. Again, there's a lot of science that exercise kinesiologists have developed and put out there. But start with, it simply means, for this context, move your body. Our body likes movement. And for me, it's yoga, swimming. Even though pools are closed, I'm fortunate to live on a large body of natural water. and I get out there and swim, or going on a bike ride, or I simply walk around the body of water. So some form of movement, however that may fit, ideally outdoors if the weather and your terrain permits, close to any form of nature. Move your body. And here again, you might have, you might use by a Peloton, you have an interval training routine, which I do on 2 days a week, but find some sort of movement, both the aerobic or not both, some component of aerobic flexibility and weight training. But start with the simplest, and don't overcomplicate it. If you don't have a routine, put on your shoes, get out of the door, walk for a minute up outside your door, walk back, and you have an exercise regimen. Default diet, very complex topic because there's so much about it. A simple thing to remember, and I break it down for people I talk to, is eat things that grow on plants. That's been proven. Science evidence is there. That seems to be the healthiest. So if it grew on a tree, shrub, or bush, that's good. Second, as close to its natural state as possible. Again, the evidence show the more humans touch it and send it through a factory and process it, the worse it seems to be from a nourishing perspective. So just follow that simple rule. And I often joke and say, eat things that grow on plants, not made in plants, as in that factory. Things that grow on a plant, not made in a plant, as close to its natural state, and then don't eat too much. Again, be aware of how much you're putting in. It's primarily to nourish yourself, not to get to state of gluttony. And be grateful, because every meal we eat, about 100 people have touched it. We'll never get to see them. They're doing jobs much harder than what you and I work in, and for much lower wages. So the fact that when a plate of food is in front of you, so many humans were involved, just should give you that sense of humility and interdependency on the planet. And so eat with a sense of gratitude. And then the final advice I give around that is make water your beverage of choice. So as much as possible, if you can, drink more water. And how much should you drink? A simple thumb rule is take your weight in pounds. So let's say you're 150 pounds, divided by 2, that's 75. Drink 75 ounces. And typically the water bottles today are 25 ounces. So simple rule is drink 3, fill it 3 times. That's what my rule is. And I do actually 4, because then I go a little bit over. So that is around nutrition. And as for sleep, and I'm a hypocrite giving advice on this topic, because I violate this rule all the time. The pressures of working in a tech company that's global, which just seems to constantly destroy any determination. But again, the evidence shows that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, ideally starting before midnight and at a consistent time, is the best thing that you can do, because the body has a repairing, self-learning mechanism. It's a self-healing system. And if you just give it that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, last night I did it, win for me. On weekdays, I struggle with it, I have to admit, getting to bed before 12 and sleeping for a full 7 to 9 hours. But if you can somehow figure out a system by which you're going to bed at the same time, sleeping 7 to 9 hours, there's plenty of research and evidence, like Dr. Detmer at Stanford and Dr. James at Cornell University, etc. And probably Dr. Kusum will speak more about that. So that is the magic formula, simple enough, accessible to everyone. That's a portal to happiness, where you're using your body as a vehicle to happiness in the midst of everything else that is going on. And I will conclude by saying that this seems a bit challenging for most people. So what I'd encourage is pick some elements of that. You don't have to do all of it. And build tiny daily rituals. When you build tiny, it should become as easy as brushing your teeth. You don't have to think about it. So for me, one tiny daily ritual is 1 minute of yoga, 1 minute of meditation. Every single day, I'm able to do it, and it's become a habit. Doesn't matter if I'm traveling on a plane, on business. 1 minute of yoga, 1 minute of meditation is my commitment. Many days I do much more than that. But that becomes the lowest possible threshold. And second is to actually make appointments with yourself. So build it in your calendar. And if it's a set routine, then more likely to do it. So for example, instead of saying I'm going to exercise just on Saturdays at 8 a.m., for an hour when I can get a chance, no, make it like every Saturday at 8 a.m., I'm going to go for a walk for 45 minutes. Book into your calendar for the rest of the year. So you know it, your colleagues know it, your family knows it, everyone is supportive. In my case, just to give you an example, 14 years ago, I set a commitment. Monday, 5:30, I teach yoga to the Google yoga community that I founded called Yoglers, the yoga program for Googlers. I haven't missed a class in 14 years. And through the pandemic, I'm still teaching at 4:30. Now I moved it to 4:30, but at 4:30 Monday, I am online and 30, 40 people join and we practice. And I've been doing it. That's like a one non-negotiable appointment on my calendar. For 148 hours, most of it seems to get in a week. Most of it will get hijacked by other people and engagements. But that is one sacred hold on my calendar. Find a couple, start with one, maybe add a second one, and then you have some chance of success. So I'll conclude that by saying, take your meds every day, and take your meds as one of the portals for happiness, using evidence-based techniques that work at a physiological level. And meds is M4, meditation, E4, exercise, D4, diet, not dieting, but as in nutrition, S4, sleep. Thank you, Praveen. Back to you.
That's awesome, Gopi. Thank you so much.